right, guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Outspoken Samantha. Please hit the like and subscribe button while you are here. So I'm going to get into the continued debacle known as Disney's remake of Snow White because the day has come. It finally hit the theaters on March 21st, 2025, which is a day that I'm sure not a lot of us thought was ever going to happen. Now, I know that I'm one of the many people that have talked extensively about this movie. We have gone over Rachel Zegler's comments where she initially said that the original storyline was outdated and offensive, and she was more interested in a boss babe version of Snow White who would rather start a revolution than be rescued by the prince. But first, before I get into the audience reviews and reception of this movie, now that it is finally here, I want to just say a couple of things. First, I didn't know if this movie was going to be an absolute failure. I didn't know if it was going to tank at the box office because despite the fact that a lot of us have been caught up in the political controversy of this movie for a couple of years now, there's also a whole section of the population that don't pay as close attention to these things. And there's also a lot of moms with little girls who love Disney princesses and would go see this movie just for the entertainment value and just because it is based on a character that their little girls already love. So I was wondering maybe if there would be enough of those people to carry this movie and keep it from being a total disaster. As we're going to hear, that didn't happen, but I thought maybe that would be a possibility. Second of all, I know a lot of the criticism for the downfall of this movie has been laid at Rachel Zegler's feet, and rightfully so, because as I said, she has done nothing but criticize this movie up until this point, basically saying she didn't like the movie, she was scared of it, she didn't want a prince to rescue her, and basically trashing all of the aspects of this movie and this character that made it beloved for almost 100 years. So none of that was appreciated. And of course, I do think a lot of the criticism has been rightfully directed at her. But we also have to look at, there was Peter Dinklage basically saying that making this movie was offensive, something that had 7 dwarves as prime characters in this film was insulting to his community of little people. Never mind the fact that there were a bunch of little people that came out afterwards and said, thanks for costing us our jobs, Peter. We would have actually been honored to be a part of this project. But that's what the woke mind virus tends to do to people, is it makes you think that you know better than everybody else and you need to speak for their people because they're not as enlightened as you. And what ends up happening is you end up harming the very community that you think that you're advocating for. Happens time and time again. People still aren't learning their lesson. But overall, I think a lot of the blame can be laid at Disney's feet in general, because as we know, it's no secret that they have chosen to be more political than entertainment in the last few years. And they have infused political, feminist, woke, progressive ideas into a lot of their films over the last few years, which is why they have continued to decline. And perhaps you are tired of hearing about Snow White in general, but I think, at least in my mind, the reason I keep bringing it up is because I'm hoping that Disney will learn their lesson, that at some point they will reverse course and just get back to making the family entertainment that made them successful in creating these characters that are based on being kind and just uplifting those around them and not focused on this progressive agenda. We're hoping that the light bulb will go back on and they will just get back to doing the things that they do best. So with that being said, let's get into some of the responses just from a couple of different articles, what the audience reviews have been, and then how Rachel Zegler desperately attempted at the last minute to rebrand herself as somebody who actually loves Snow White, which I think probably did more harm than good. But let's get into it. So just as the numbers from the box office have been coming in, this article in Breitbart says Snow White bombs, breaks record for lowest live action remake opening. And then just at the top, it says, with its dreadful $43 million opening, Snow White now holds the record for the lowest debut weekend of any of Disney's live action remakes. The previous record holder was 2019's Dumbo, which opened up to $46 million. So that right there says that this movie just drastically underperformed. So it means that our moms and their little princess daughters did not carry the water for this film. But there were also other posts on X that just summarized what other publications have said about this movie. This one says, from The Guardian, they said that it's toe-curlingly terrible. The Times said Disney has trashed its crown jewel. The HuffPost says it's a strange hot mess. An article in Vulture says it's totally about lefty infighting. The Google Audiences review is 1.4 and the IMDb rating is 2.3 out of 10. I did appreciate this take from Misha Petrov, who has a great channel on YouTube that I love to watch. She says, so I just watched Disney's latest race-swapped live-action remake, Snow White. Guess what? The prince isn't even a prince. He's a random thief who kind of looks like Snow White's dead father. The actor is also 11 years older than Rachel Zegler and carries himself like he's the one searching for a prince. Also, after he kisses her without her consent, by the way, does she go on a modern feminist rant like Rachel has in every press interview? Nope, she's totally fine with it. And then Misha provides her own full review, which I will link in the comments below if you want to read it. And then there are reviews that I have seen online, and they have come from videos on TikTok. They've come from other posts on X. I've heard a lot of people say that despite all of the criticism that Rachel Zegler had leading up to this movie and up to the release of this movie, she was actually the one who carried this film, that she did very well in this part. And I won't deny that, because I know that there's a lot of music in this film, and I know that Rachel Zegler is very musically talented. She can sing, she has a beautiful voice, and she is very expressive in the things that she does. So I have no doubt that she probably did very well with what she was given, but there's also no doubt that she fully embraced the political movement behind this new Snow White remake, which has led to a lot of problems. I've heard a lot of people say that there was almost too much music in this movie and that it really dragged on. I've heard people say that the opening really, set you up to think that this movie was going to be entertaining and interesting, but that the opening was the best part and it was just all downhill from there. So I really haven't heard a lot of glowing reviews about this movie. Now, what's unfortunate is that I think Rachel Zegler realized a little too late the damage that she had done, and she tried to reinvent herself as somebody who loves Snow White, who appreciated the original work that went into this movie, who appreciated the original actress and the original storyline. So I know I touched on this previously, but she did this photo shoot where she tried to pay homage to Adriana Castellotti, who was the original voice of Snow White, and said, this is the actress that I owe everything to. Despite the fact that, again, she talked about how much she disliked Snow White as a character in all of her other interviews. Then she gave a couple of speeches at these premiere events, again, trying to express how much she absolutely loved and appreciated Disney and Snow White as a story and as a character. So let's listen really quick.
So much for being here. This is a movie that is so close to my heart. I auditioned for this movie when I was 19 years old, and I am about to turn 24. So it's a really big chunk of my life, and about 5 out of the 7 years of my career, which is crazy. I love everybody in this movie so dearly. Coming to the end of this road of the release feels really crazy, because when you spend so much time with something, it becomes such a big part of you and a big part of your heart. And Snow White has really been that way for me. And to see this is really emotional for me, so I'm going to try to not do that. I love her, and I'm so glad to see that so many of you love her as well. Her superpower is her heart. It's nothing supernatural. It's something that all of us have. And deep within us, there is an inherent good and a belief in the kindness of humanity. I hope that you walk away from this film understanding what the true meaning of fair is. I really, really hope that for the world as well.
Despite the fact that not that long ago, she posted an Instagram story where she said that anybody that voted for Trump does not deserve to know peace. Not only that, I know that there has been some tension between herself and Gal Gadot, because as we know, Gal Gadot is Israeli, and Rachel Zegler is very much pro-Palestine. So there has been some tension between the two. So to me, she's not entirely being honest in her messaging here either. This is one more little clip from a press event.
Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age. And there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one in town.
It could just be me, but I kind of feel like the underlying tone as she's talking to people who are coming and hoping to get some semblance of the original from this movie and some appreciation for the original character in the story, is that she's basically saying, as Snow White is made for the modern age, the original story is not good enough, even though it has stood the test of time, whereas this movie has been an utter failure within the first 5 minutes. But the characteristics of Snow White that made her beloved, of being someone that is fair and brave and uplifts the people around her despite the challenges that she is facing, it's really unfortunate that the modern message that feminists like Rachel Zegler like to push is that that is not a sign of strength, that you actually have to be actively involved in some kind of fight or revolution or war or activism in order to be seen as strong. Overall, that has been the reception to this movie. Not a lot of positivity. There have been people that enjoyed certain aspects of it, but for the most part, they felt that Disney could have done a lot better, because they have done a lot better in the past. Disney has shown us that they can make epic entertainment, that they can make films that stand the test of time, that, you know, bring audiences, that bring people together. So it is really confusing as to why they continue to do this, but I do hope that they will learn their lesson. I also hope that Rachel maybe sits down and looks in her own magic mirror and reflects on some of the things that she could do better, because this is the start of her career. But if I were someone looking at this person as someone to work with in the future, I would be thinking twice about it, because we know that she has the potential to tank an entire production just by making it about herself, by making it about her politics, and being unable to separate her career and the characters that she plays from the beliefs that she has elsewhere in her life. And when people continue to do that and to make these things about themselves, they only harm themselves and the other people that are involved in these things, which again would make anybody that is looking at her as a potential talent to work with think twice about hiring her. But I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Let me know if you have seen this movie, or if you intend to see this movie, or if you know somebody who has seen this movie, because I don't. I don't know that we will continue to talk about this movie, because now that it's out and we know that it has basically become the failure that we all anticipated it being, there probably won't be that much more to say, but I'm sure this isn't the last that we will see of Rachel Zegler. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.